Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Saturday Smackdown, another best of 7 series between some of Age of Empires 3's top-level players. Today we have Black Thought, aka CometK, who is actually running his own YouTube channel, which I will link in the description of this video. He's a pretty good in Supremacy, but I think he is largely treaty-focused and is indeed one of the main people behind the Treaty Cup, which is an ESOC event coming up pretty soon. It's the first of its kind. Well, I think it is. Certainly I've never heard of a high-profile treaty tournament before, but yes, some treaty tournament action is coming your way shortly. Do check out ESO-community.net to keep up to date with all things Age of Empires 3 going on in the scene right now. Anyway, he is a good player in Supremacy, he is Black Thought. Do check out his link below if you're interested in treaty guides and Supremacy games as well, I guess. He will be going up against Yurashic today. Certainly a good player as well, who I believe gave Bonang a run for his money in the Spring Championships 2015. So there's that. Not the most high-profile matchup. It's not certainly not Samwise 12 versus Acer game, which by the way was the grand finals of the summer championships that we have been having all of this summer. Yes, those games have been played. I casted the first half of that series, and I gotta say, it was shaping up to be a pretty good series. We had Samwise 3 games up against his opponent, Acer game on 0 wins, and then Acer game brings it back with 2 victories in a row, shaping up to be a reverse all-kill, sort of. And then they stopped playing. But the second half of that series has now been played as well. A winner has emerged. It's finally over. The Tournament of the Summer is done. I won't spoil it, as I suspect some of you are probably waiting for the VODs, but they won't be coming out on my channel. They are up right now, though, available on the ESOC YouTube channel. Links to that in the description. Don't spoil the results, anybody, otherwise I will delete your comments and possibly ban you if you're being a nuisance. So yes, without further ado, I'm really not very good at keeping these intros short, am I? Which reminds me, actually, I do have more to say. The first matchup, yeah, the first match in this series, before I forget, is in Zuta's perspective in crappy 720p, unfortunately. Zuta, I think, is getting a new PC. I'll talk more about that in the actual video. But yes, it's in 720p, that first game. The rest of the series is in my perspective and is in 1080p. So yeah, it's just that first game that isn't 1080p. So there is that. If you only have time to watch one game, I would highly recommend game number 2 in this series. It is not often that you get to see a half-an-hour game with Iroquois, or in fact 2 Iroquois players. So there is that. Definitely a good one. You can always skip to any of the matchups. As always, they are listed below in the description. You can click on the timestamps to skip to a particular game, but be careful, as looking at the matchups does show you how many games were played, and that can be a spoiler for the outcome of the series. You have been warned. Anyway, without further ado, enjoy the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Saturday Smackdown. It is that time of the day. Today's best of 7 is going to be played by Black Thought and Yurashic, and of course, as usual, I'm joined by Interjection.
Hello there.
And we are, I believe, ready for this best of 7 series to begin. We are mostly on time. For those of you who are perhaps listening on Interjection's channel, we were just shooting the breeze, and all of a sudden Interjection said, by the way, we were supposed to start 2 minutes ago. So
we were talking about
we were talking about being on time and how it annoyed us that sometimes we didn't have the ability to start on time, and then today we had every ability to start on time, and we missed by 2 minutes. But we are ready now. Hopefully the wait was worth it. A couple different players here for once, which is something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, Black Thought and Yurashic, definitely sort of new faces on the block. I think both of them have been around. I am currently trying to set up my recorder.
Are you ready?
I think Yurashic's definitely played on Smackdown before, and I've seen him have a presence against, almost beat Bonang in the Spring Championships 2015. Black Thought, a well-versed treaty player, and has seen play on Smackdown as well. Certainly good in Supremacy, obviously, as well. I think we're ready to begin, though. My recorder is ready. I'm going to pause all of the streams that I'm watching, which happens to be just one. Oh, and the BlizzCon EU Hearthstone qualifiers. We'll get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Saturday Smackdown. This is game number 1 in a best of 7 between Black Thought and Yurashic. In of course, the Saturday Smackdown format. This is a thing that Zuta does, and I accompany him every single Saturday at exactly 8 p.m. GMT, and that is 9 p.m. British time, 1 p.m. PST if you're in the US. We do this every week, and I thought I'd mention that if this is perhaps the first time you're watching this, maybe on Twitch right now, or perhaps as a VOD on a YouTube channel somewhere. There is AOE 3 action out there, but spawning in the north of the map with the colour blue, we do have indeed Black Thought. Playing as the Aztecs, picking himself up 40 wood treasure right there, converting a snow leopard. Pretty good guardian to have right off the bat, and certainly wood treasure is desirable as well. Where's that warrior priest going? Probably just looking around the back, maybe some treasures there before he lays down that fire pit. But in the south of the map, we do have Yurashic. I had a timer in the background that distracted me. It just went off.
Oh.
So I was going to say something about our resident Russian player. Certainly, Yurashic is indeed Russian and is playing as China, not Russia.
Not Russia. Is he actually from Russia? Like?
Yeah, that's what I meant. He's from Russia.
He's from Mother Russia.
Mother Russia.
Mother Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Home court advantage, then definitely playing on Siberia.
Yeah. I didn't make that connection, but definitely we'll have to see if the lay of the land is
something he's familiar with at the very least.
This is such BS. But he is playing as China, and of course has laid down that first village with the wood that he started with, swiftly collecting the next amount of wood that he needs for the other village there. As you was pointed out before, that you do start with the 300 wood every single time. Definitely going to want 2 villages as China, so you can get the second one down, and of course send northern refugees for basically that 3 villager shipment. So there is that. Looks like he's found an 85 wood treasure here, Yurashic. That's definitely going to be helping him out there.
Yeah, that's going to be really useful. It allows him to pull off his villagers from wood a little bit early, and we can see dropping down that second village right now. Going to be really nice for him. Doesn't have to waste as much time chopping that extra little bit of wood, and going to still be able to get that Northern Refugees card out on time and get all 3 villagers for that. So certainly finding those nice little treasures, definitely good for the Chinese player early in the game. But as we also saw, Aztec did pick up a 40 wood treasure at the start of the game, and it looks like he's going to pick up a 50 wood treasure up here as well.
Yeah, pretty nice. He's also found a second 40 wood treasure. So in total, that's 80, over 100 wood. I'm not sure, 40 wood, 40 wood, and 50 wood. So looking really, really nice there. Could actually lay down a market right now if he really wanted to, but is probably a bit late and more likely save that wood for once he's up to the next stage. But definitely something he's going to be pretty happy about finding. I'd like to take this opportunity to let everyone know I do not have my UI installed as per usual. I have been speedrunning and getting pretty close to setting the time. I'll put that up on speedrun.com once I've done it, and of course my YouTube channel as well. But I do have to take the UI out because it interacts with the cutscenes and it doesn't play back properly, and it's, yeah, there is that. So I will be using Zuta's perspective for this first game, I would imagine, in the VOD. What's going on, though?
One thing I wanted to touch on, so you mentioned how Black Thought had gathered 130 extra wood from treasures, and so we can see what his wood total currently is. It's sitting at that extra 130.
Well, you can.
Yeah, I can. He's sitting at that extra 130. And I've always been a bit conflicted about this. Like, what is the correct thing to do if you have 130, 140 wood, and you have the coin crate, but you're at, that kind of 13, 14 villager mark, and you're going to be aging really soon anyways? What is the better thing to do? Should you drop down the market and chop that little extra wood, gather your coin crate, slow down potentially your age up to get the hunting dogs out? Or do you play it status quo and just interact with that 130 wood like it never was there? And I think I prefer the way that Black Thought did go about it. I'm actually glad to see he didn't drop down the market, didn't gather up the coin. He's only missing out on very little amount of time, and I think in the long run it's actually going to end up being more beneficial to him just getting that earlier age up in so that he can get his next shipment coming, as opposed to doing something, like a little more economically, like getting that hunting dogs as fast as humanly possible. So I am glad to see that he did opt for the choice that he did, And also, with that fast age-up politician, like I mentioned, he's going to be able to get out that 700 wood very, very quickly. And let's see what he does with it. We can see it on the ground, and we can also see 2 villagers working their way forward. And very soon, it looks like we may see some sort of forward-ish war hut.
Ooh, there it is, laying it down right about now. Certainly not the most aggressive of war huts. It was on sort of his side of the lake, because you can't really build it in the lake since it is, of course, Siberia. But yeah, I'd like to just add on the point you made there with the sort of aging up with a little bit quicker. Of course, get that shipment progression going a bit sooner. Aztec do have some fairly efficient shipments that they can send. It certainly helps them out. But also, I guess it depends on perhaps if you find that wood really, really early, you might get a market if it's super early on in the discovery age, but you know, that might influence the decision. Either way, though, does build a trading post quite easily with that wood, and as you mentioned, has laid down this forward war hut here. We have to see in what his second colonial age shipment is, and I'm sure that will give us some insight on what he has planned for this game. But Yurashic, playing as China, has built a sort of ring, a big wall around his base there, certainly going to be protecting the sort of very immediate resources inside, and give him a bit of early protection against whatever Aztec does choose to do, whatever that might be.
Yeah, and I really actually like what he's done here. Traditionally, you see a lot of people use their buildings just to kind of be this front that he has, but instead he's opted with the wall, and then he's kind of kept his villages safe here in the back. And I actually really like that, just due to the fact that the villages are a very easy to pressure structure, and you know, if something like 11 Pumas were to come out and start sieging those down, could put him in an awkward situation where maybe you'd have to call Minutemen, maybe have to call Chukanu. But with this wall defending his front resources, keeping the villages safe, no threat of that actually is present, and he's going to be able to get to the third age with no problems here.
Yeah, it does manage to pick up a villager, though, with the coyote shipment. There might even, you know, obviously he's going to lose, or might even get the second villager. Doesn't manage to do that. There does start laying down his age-up wonder. I can't actually tell which one it is. I'm not familiar with the way it looks, and I don't have the UI installed.
It's
but
Confucian Academy. It's the one that gives you 8 skirms.
Alright, and that looks like they'll be quite useful since Aztec is sort of piling on the pressure here by the looks of it, especially, well, this coyote shipment at least. But yeah, villages in the back, nice, because it can be truly crippling to lose one of those, and is often quite a nice thing for, you know, civilizations to do, to just go in and try and kill one. Certainly, I've tried that as France, you know, try and pikeman rush down one of the villages, absolutely cripples them. But equally, you know, with the tower on the front near the Koiman, there's truly not really any need to have the villages there either. He's already got a place to garrison villages in there. Looks like the pikemen, or sorry, the coyote runners are going to pick off the Papa Norca Mamaboba, the explorer's name. It's quite the name there.
Very interesting name.
Yeah, quite the name. No longer got that covered mood, 1000 HP tank. The coyote runners, though, don't look like they're going to be able to achieve that much more. They're going to force the villagers back in, but, you know, with Yurashic already up to the Fortress Age, how much damage are these really going to do? Certainly going to be good against the Arquebusier, though. That's definitely worth pointing out.
Yeah, and certainly he's scouted it by this point and knows the Arquebusier are going to be coming out at some point. But I'm a bit conflicted over what he's doing here. I mean, it is good that he's applying pressure, but he's also losing quite a few of those coyotes. And we have to recall that China doesn't really need a great eco. They don't need a lot of stuff going for them to really be effective. And now that, you know, the Old Han shipment is here, does have those extra 3 pikes, going to be able to chase off the coyotes, and losing those coyotes is going to be a little awkward, because now he's going to have to start formulating his response. What is going to be his next step? And it looks like with the 600 coin shipment, he's potentially considering aging up. And by losing all of these units while he's potentially trying to age up, could really put a damper on his age 3 play as well. You know, just like we say with a civ like Germany, for example, you want to make sure you don't lose your units, you know, when you're trying to age up to upgrade them. Similarly here with the coyotes, you don't really want to be losing the coyotes right before you're going to potentially be upgrading them and trying to make them stronger.
Yeah, true. Though, is it worth mentioning, perhaps he's bringing them in now, going to try and take out this couple of pikemen before he loses too many, take out the Chokanu there, and maybe even eliminate a few of the Arquebusier when he pops up. Maybe that's why he's heading back in there, though. Of course, Yurashic not going to let that happen, does call both the Centuries and the Irregulars, both of those there. Is that perhaps just a little bit of an overreaction with the 8 Arquebusier about to pop out? Either way, though, does deflect the pressure coming in, and is now up to the Fortress Age nice and safely, awaiting his first shipment and first batch of units
pretty much within the next 25 seconds. And then China going to be pretty happy about his position in this game, I would imagine.
Yep. The one thing that China does have to do very soon is establish a new hunting location. Likely it's going to be this spot right over here because it does double with that nice big hunt and that coin mine. We can see in his base really starting to run thin on resources. Only 1k coin remaining in the silver mine. The hunts are all but gone. And so his next big thing is going to be securing some sort of additional resource location, and once he does that, then he can push out. But at the same time, Aztec is aging. Aztec does have also some pretty good map control. We've seen he's established a second war hut here on what would be, I guess the third or fourth coin mine of Yurashic, and has also built a trading post. So he's going to have lots of XP coming in as he proceeds to the next stage. He's played fairly economically behind this with 700 wood, 5 vil, 600 wood. And to be perfectly fair, his economy's clicking, he's got good map control, and he did cause a little bit of distress during the age-up time for China. So there is the opportunity maybe that he can continue to control these hunts, and especially if he can deny this location over here to the right, should be in pretty good shape once he gets aged up. But as we all know, China, when they get into third age, get that consulate rolling, get intervention sent, they are a very difficult civ to stop rolling in.
They are an absolute monster once they hit up there. You can see quite the army already, with having sent intervention, as you pointed out, and as well with his first. Is that a meteor hammer shipment? Well, either way, there's plenty of cavalry. I know that's the. Yeah,
he's just trained those. That's just a forbidden army that he's trained.
Yeah, there it is. But. It's only going to get bigger, and China is a civ that really you want to sort of keep them in check. As Blackthought was doing whilst he was sort of aging up there, you want to keep them down, minimize the resources they can gather in transition to sort of reduce the number of units they can train. But equally, you want to try and do some damage before they get the big ball of units rolling, because it only gets bigger and bigger and more difficult to sort of deal with. And as a result of that, without sort of the pressure.
Yeah. And certainly... I do think that this is the timing. He's seen the age up has come, and now he knows this is his time. He needs to go. He needs to make something happen right now, or else he risks just losing to the tech and eco of the Aztec player. So I like this push out here, but at the same time, Blackthought doing the smart thing, backing up, playing it carefully, not overextending. We do see he did age up with a warrior, so he does have those extra 3 Skull Knights as well, which are going to be very beneficial to him against this growing Cav mass. But I don't know. China's mass is still very scary to me. Look at the number of meteor hammers he's pulled together here in a very short amount of time. He also does have the 400 export available to him, which means when he gets unpop blocked here, he's going to be able to send another little batch of redcoats, and when those come... I think that's his go time. That's the time that he wants to try and push out, try and make something happen, and try and win a fight and snowball that into a win of the game. Because if he continues to sit around in his base too much longer, Aztec does have a pretty good economy. He does have the techs, going for him as well. So he doesn't just want to sit on his laurels and let the Aztec player get too out of control.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at the villager count right now. Actually, fairly even, 35 to Blackthought and about 33 for Yurashic. Though I'm not sure on the upgrades. I honestly cannot tell because I don't have it installed. But I am looking forward to this fight here. 3 Skull Knights in the back. I am very interested to see what they can achieve. Certainly the area damage can be very effective against the low HP Minutemen if you can get one near them. And he's also, obviously, the cavalry. They do massive multipliers versus those. But I'm afraid, I'm a little bit worried. Look at the number of sort of ranged infantry he has in there. Obviously, the intervention, redcoats, and just the sort of skirmisher type arquebusier units there can quite easily be able to pick off the slow-moving Skull Knight, which suffers sort of from the same problems as Doppelsodners do and other sort of slow-moving heavy infantry like Halberdiers. And in that sense, that very easy to kite. And yes, they're strong when they get up close, but if they're focused down adequately, properly, then they might not really be very threatening at all, especially now. Look at Flying Crow being added in as well. It does have quite the number of Coyote runners, which at the moment looks fairly convincing versus what Yurashic has. Actually, having said that, though, the Musketeers, and then now he's adding in the Changdaos.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it too late? Look at the Oh, the score's actually quite even.
Yeah,
But
there's also was just an 8 villager shipment here for Black Thought as well. So China really needs to make something happen fairly soon. They're just going to fall further and further behind. And like you mentioned, with those Skull Knights, he has to make sure those things die. Because if he doesn't focus those down, and they're allowed just to sit on the front line and punish all of the melee units with their huge splash and their huge attack now in the Third Age, he's got to be very careful and make sure that he eliminates those right from the go.
there goes the second war. Having lost both of them now, or at least it has lost 2 in total, and currently doesn't have one. Going to have to rebeat. Certainly, he's already got one up, sort of near the trade route there. I can't really tell what he has in queue, but Yurashic swiftly approaching with the China Death Ball, and this is in my experience, this is just very. You can't.
It's so hard from Aztec's perspective to stop this. It's just with all the different units there are, the different unit types. Really, Red can just kind of drag.
Here we go, though. The Coyote Runners coming in. Perhaps they can get a good surround on that. They take out the artillery piece quite nicely there. I don't think Yurashic was necessarily expecting to fight there. It just jumped out on him. But I still think he's going to be completely okay. Just look at the number of units he has relative to Black Thought there. The Coyote Runners...
Where are the Skull Knights? Both of the Skull Knights on the right side still alive. Yeah,
they're walking and trying to get to the cav, but they're just...
Oh, yeah.
They're just moving around, not really achieving anything. That's the issue there. And look at them. It's going to go down whilst walking, and the blue army just melted away.
It's just China's fight from this point, right? Like, it's so difficult to deal with that big mass with all the different kinds of units that are presented in that fight. It's just really difficult to ever, without musketeers especially, which Aztec don't have, to really just focus down on particular unit types and unit positioning. What you really need against that is a big mass of muskets, and unfortunately for Aztec, I mean, doesn't really have that. Potentially, if he would have maybe had like quite a few more Eagle Runner Knights or something like that, which are kind of that fine line between musket and dragoon that Aztec have, maybe he could have been a little bit better. But all of the melee units just got up into his face, and despite the positioning, like you mentioned, he got a pretty good spot with eliminating the Flying Crow right from the off. And I actually thought, like, hey, this could be good for Aztec. And then the longer the fight goes, it's just those Chang Dao, those Meteor Hammers, those Iron Flails, just all of those melee units just smashed up into the front, while, the Arquebusiers, the Red Coast, the ranged units just sit in the back doing their damage. It just made it a brutal fight. So that's just kind of China FF in a nutshell, though, right? Like, if you're not careful about how you approach it, if you're not able to do any sort of successful pressure, you usually just end up getting rolled over at some point when they decide to push out and timing push.
I think the conclusion is that Black Thought clearly has not read Gaia's Aztec Guide.
I was waiting for that. You can't have an Aztec. You can't have an Aztec game and not have Garja mentioned at some point.
You can't have a straw poll without a Gaia mention.
Yeah, it's just,
nowadays.
It's not legal. It's not a legal move.
I like to imagine that if an Age of Empires 4 were to ever come out, that somehow the community would sort of help out with the development. Maybe in the next, if there ever was one of the taunts, like taunt 22, would be something related to Gaia.
Yeah, or something like there would be something where you would have like something that would mention Garja. Certainly, I would vote for it.
Geographically correct matchup, he says. Not quite the previous one, China and the Aztecs fighting in Russia.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Aztecs never left South America, right?
No.
Like, I don't think they ever attempted to conquer the New World in much the way that some of the European civs did that are in this game. You can tell they just were starting to run out of ideas, right?
It was like the War Chiefs expansion. They thought was the most prominent civilization. I guess it ended up being Aztec, Sioux, and Iroquois, and then they released the Asian Dynasties expansion, and that just allowed for the most ridiculous things
ever.
Some very good
Yeah.
matchups. And that was just a facet of releasing 2 expansions.
Yeah.
But shall we? I'm going to start recording here. I do have my UI
You
installed.
got your UI. Great. Perfect.
Yeah, I jumped out real quick and put that in. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to game number 2 in glorious 1080p 60. Well, actually not 60, because for some reason Camtasia Studios doesn't like to record at 60. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to game number 2 in glorious 1080p 60. Well, actually not 60, because for some reason Camtasia Studios doesn't like to record at 60 FPS. Though the first game will most likely be in 60. Actually, no, because I'll have to render it. I'm not entirely sure, it might be. I have no idea. But speaking of quality and computers, I believe, Zuta, you're getting a new one. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I did. I dropped the dough for a new computer. I got 2 blue screens over the course of like 2 or 3 days this week, and it was just enough to be like, you know what, it's time. It's been 5 years since I've had a new computer. You've been working hard. It's time to treat yourself. So that's what I did. I went and I bought a new computer. And
does that mean we can have Age of Empires 3 streams in 1080p, or perhaps even better than that?
It means we can have them in whatever quality we want. It's gonna be glorious when it arrives, and certainly I'm hoping that it'll be next week, but my gut is telling me that it'll be the week after that, just because it takes them a little bit of turnaround time to get it actually set up and ready and stuff. So
and that kind of thing happens. Though we do have, look at that, both players standing on top of the trading post there. I thought for a second Yurashic was actually intending to lay that down. He actually absolutely was intending to put his trading post exactly where Black Thought was. You can see him now. Ah, great. Now I have to walk down here and build that one in the south there. Perhaps this may, or I'm not sure. I'll be very interested to see if it actually results in him missing a batch of XP, but it is a very short trading round. It absolutely does. Look at that. Gonna be getting 1 fewer batch of XP relative to Black Thought as a direct result of Black Thought managing to pop that down there. Yurashic could have had it. He just left his Explorer go idle for a little bit, perhaps was managing something else. But yeah, the point about talking about all of the computer stuff in the early game is that I didn't have my UI installed for the first match, and I'm going to use Zuta's perspective, so it'll be 720p, but the rest will be in this quality that you're looking at now if you're watching this as a VOD. Black Thought going to be picking up a 150 coin treasure. Not hugely useful for the Iroquois. All of their units, of course, cost food, wood. Coin, really only thing he's going to be using that for is hunting dogs, and aside from that, I honestly can't think of anything else that he would.
They have the wood gathering upgrade, right?
Yeah.
Can be useful.
True. Yes.
It's an awkward amount of coin though. It's far more.
Yeah.
It's like 150 coin. Is that right?
Yeah, it was. It's a lot of coin, but finding a sort of use for it, especially in this matchup, could be difficult. Obviously, Iroquois mirror, and we have Black Thought on the left-hand side. There, 3 sheep he has found. Versus Yurashic also playing Iroquois. A very tempo-focused matchup where most of the game is played out very, very aggressively, very quickly in the colonial age, and is usually based around sort of timings with sort of early shipments and, for that matter, military shipments. We'll see what happens.
I mean, certainly both players are going to play aggressively, and with the way that the trading sites work out on this map, with the kind of north to south running map, being able to secure the middle portion of the map, like say you both put down your war huts right here, right? Yurashic, if he wins the control war in the middle of the map, say he wins an earlier fight, has a better AN mass, etc., etc., maybe gets out slightly more units in his first batches, is able to turn the tides in his favor. Look at how close Black Thought's TP will be to him and how easy it will be for him to pressure that location. And if he can take that down...
Ooh, is he going to pick up the 60 wood treasure? He's going in for it. One last hit and he picks it up. Sneaks in the 60 wood. Standing on the sidelines there is Black Thought. Now going to mosey on out of there away from his opponent's outlaw rifleman. Holy crap, that thing's good. 40 ranged attack on something. And 186 hit points. Absolutely monstrous hero power on his Explorer there.
Yeah. Hit so hard. But back to what I was saying. If you're able to control the middle portion of the map, especially if you're Yurashic here in this particular situation, look at how close the trading post is and how easy it will be to deny that. And if you can get that down and get yourself a nice little advantage in that regard, going to be really, really good. And we're going to see, obviously, both players aging up quickly, going to be throwing down those war huts in aggressive locations.
That was literally at the same time.
It was the exact same time. It was like second for second.
I'm pretty sure the only reason Black Thought, it says in sort of like the page up section there, came first is because he's player 1 and not player 2. There is a Trav War being sniped. He's going to get it now. That was so close.
It was so close to going down.
If his Explorer had been just a tiny bit further up, like his own Explorer, he might have had to walk a tiny bit further to lay it down. Is actually, by the looks of it, forced to place it in a sort of suboptimal spot, or at least a place he doesn't really want it to be. This is perhaps more defensive than he would otherwise like it to be. Perhaps wanted a bit further forward, though. The main thing is it does survive, and he doesn't just randomly lose to his opponent's hero power.
But this kind of goes back to like what I was saying right now. Yurashic with that kind of bold play with the Outlaw Rifleman. Look at the position he got his war hut in compared to his opponents. He's got the middle portion of the map much more under his control, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him just go straight for the TP here. Yeah, look at the Kanya. They're not even attempting to to apply any pressure to the war hut or to the villagers or anything like that, going straight for the trading post. And I really like this idea. It's really good. Builds a batch of tomahawks right off the bat, ships those 4 cav, and he's going to go straight for the trading post. And if he can knock that down without any contest, which I think he likely is going to be able to do, due to the fact that Black Thought sent 600 wood as his first card, that's going to be a huge advantage for him moving forwards from this point on.
That's a big loss of tempo in terms of, like, 4 cannon is such a strong shipment. The raiding pressure that can give you is incredible. And here, just sort of the extra military presence is going to brute force down this trading post. Very, very strong. As you're mentioning, having the... wait, hold on. Never mind. There's 5 Aena, though. Interesting choice for his first batch of 5. It looks like he just didn't make any attempt to go and defend it, and that's probably because his opponent had 4 cavalry out, and there's just no way he can get anywhere near those units that Red has, simply because his own units would get absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
So he does just surrender the trading post. Though it does have 600 wood, and with that, certainly is going to be able to add in his sort of stable there, get some infrastructure up that otherwise Yurashic can't have quite as early on, and maybe has some better market improvements as well. Yurashic, though, actually by the looks of it, those first 5 Tomahawks were from Iroquois scouting party. He didn't train those at all.
Yeah, they came from the big button, which I didn't realize at first. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? They were there super early at 4 minutes and 40 seconds.
And that's how he perhaps managed to brute force it down.
Yeah. Combining that with Black Thought's early 600 wood, and as a result, we can see, I think at this point, all Yurashic has to do is just sit behind his war hut and wait for his opponent to come to him. And Black Thought has to know that, the clock is ticking. The longer the game goes on, the more XP that trade Travois is generating, the more shipments that are coming. I mean, imagine now that Red follows us up with 7 Aena, 6 Aena, 6 Tomahawks, all those unit upgrades. Things are really going to start rolling in his favor, and it's going to kind of be up to Blue to make something happen with this 600 wood. He chose to send 600 wood, and he needs to make something happen with that 600 wood to justify losing the trading post. And Yurashic should know that and just sit back and wait for his opponent to come, because if the game just continues on where he's allowed to have more XP and ship more shipments, he'll win by default. And I think we can kind of see that shaping up just due to the posturing of his army at this point in the game.
Yep, he knows it has to make something happen now, and looks like that is exactly what he's intending to do. Of course, Yurashic is going to wait back there, as you pointed out, and has a defending advantage next to this war hut, which has a 30 ranged attack, nothing to scoff at, and indeed is the place where his military units are spawning. Is going to get back into the fight much quicker. That replacement time going to be much, definitely a very real advantage here. Though, at the moment, things are quite even in terms of military unit population. I think Black Thought is actually a little bit ahead for the time being. Perhaps we are going to see a batch of units from Yurashic any second now to even that out. But just a little bit of a skirmish, both players sort of returning. But anything could happen here. It's all about unit control, especially with armies like this, sort of similar in size and composition.
Yeah. Interesting little move here by Black Thought, sending his cav down to the south. Potentially going to maybe look for some sort of raid. He definitely needs to be the aggressor. He needs to make something happen because, as I mentioned, if he doesn't make up for the loss of that trading post in some way, he's just going to lose. And he didn't have any success with that first little poke that he tried to take in the front side of Yurashic's base. And so now it looks like he's going to try and make that happen with some sort of raid instead. And certainly he has to make something happen, because the longer this goes, like, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. If we take a look at the XP, look at where Yurashic's at. And XP, he's at 32% versus 7% towards his next shipment. So it's already starting to become quite apparent that soon he will have his next shipment where his opponent will not, and that's going to be quite problematic.
Yeah. With those 4 canyons, though, absent, Yurashic's taken the opportunity to push forward there, knows that he has a larger army because some of the enemy units are not there. Looks like the cavalry not doing too well versus the Tomahawks. Want to get out of there, though, but they're going to be eaten up quite quickly by this large mass of ANA, which, by the looks of it, are doing quite a good job of targeting them down there. Yurashic's Tomahawks in the back are now sort of focusing the cavalry, and has brought down all Blue's cavalry there. And it looks like... Black Thought, blue player here, now on his way out there, has a smaller military unit as a direct result of this fight here, and Yurashic in a good position to just go ahead and push into the enemy there. And
and Black Thought with his last shipment has just sent 5 villagers as well, and so although it's improving his economy slightly, take a look at the military populations, 37 versus 26, and Yurashic just sent another card, and so if he just sent 6 ANA, his military count is going to explode here. And I don't know that we're ever going to have a chance for those 5 villagers to really make any sort of difference, just due to the fact that the red Iroquois player is going to have so many more military units, and I fully expect to see 6 ANA and then a push out here. And if that happens, it certainly is going to be very, very difficult for the blue player to hold.
Absolutely. If not 6 ANA, then certainly a military shipment of some description, and that is exactly what he needs. Going to use that to add to his army and just absolutely destroy Blackfoot there. They're having 5 villagers, not really adding anything to his mass, which is what he needs to defend, of course, but I don't think sending military is going to help him defend. I mean, certainly it will, but not really that much. It's not the winning play, so to speak. I think 5 villagers here, he's sending that and just hoping they will live. He will stay alive long enough for them to make a difference, and I think that's really the only way you can get back in the game, if that makes sense. It's sort of the winning play, even though it's less likely to help you out in the immediacy of right now. Having said that, though, these there's Tomahawks there.
A couple Tomahawks in a really good position there, honestly, for Yurashic. Got them in a pretty good spot. Was able to eliminate most of the Kanya right off the start. And now we can see just the sheer mass advantage. Plus, still having the Explorer left alive is really, really huge. We can see Yurashic's Explorer still at full HP. I don't know that he's necessarily used the crack shot ability, which he certainly should be using, but knocking down that Explorer, definitely a nice little advantage for him as well. Although, that said, Black Thought did hold. He did get an okay trade. And, I mean, for what it's worth, he's 5 vills up now, or 3 vills up, I guess, just due to the train time that he's lost. And Yurashic has committed a lot to these military shipments, so he didn't really get any extra inherent strength. It's not like he sent conservative tactics or any of his infantry upgrades or anything like that. So despite the fact that, Yurashic has continued to have this XP advantage, Blackbot's still hanging around and still being relevant. But the thing that concerns me is look where he's forced to hunt. Locations like this. It's one thing to defend underneath. It's one thing to defend underneath your war hunt. It's another thing to have to defend a location out here in the middle of nowhere. But it looks like he is going to throw up a war hut down there to the south of his base and start to defend that location instead.
Still in the game. I thought that Yurashic had it, the positioning near that war hut where they were fighting, that sort of empty treasure in the coin mine there. There was no way for the enemy cavalry to get to the end, but somehow still in it, and it's worth pointing out, yes, he's up in villages, and not anymore though, since Yurashic has just sent 5 of his own, of course, has now evened that up. But look, it's very even now, both 37-38, basically the same villager count, but worth pointing out, Black Thought has had hunting dogs running for him this entire time, whereas Yurashic is sort of yet to research that. And that 10% on food gather is, quite significant when you're playing as Iroquois and you don't collect any gold, and the majority of your units will be gathering food. Does now have a war hub next to his sort of his immediate hunt, and very even military unit population. I think Black Thought is still very much in this game. Yes, no, definitely very even. Everything's very, very even right now.
The one continued decided difference is the lack of the trading post for the blue player. Black Thought would actually be in a fantastic position here if he still had his trading post up, but unfortunately he does not. And I still think that as the game continues to progress, that is going to be the deciding factor, is not having that particular building up, just due to the fact that Yurashic is going to continue to have more shipments and better upgrades the longer and longer the game goes. So I still feel like it's a little bit of Black Thought's pressure to still like try and make something happen. He's had good fights so far. He's had good exchanges, but I don't know that that's in itself going to be enough to win him the game. Certainly, as you mentioned, having hunting dogs while your opponent does not for the course of 10 minutes is a huge advantage. Very, very nice pickup for him there, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to outweigh the the whole slew of infantry upgrades that are going to come over the course of the next 10 minutes from this extra trading post advantage.
Yeah, that's true. Though for the time being, Black Thought is the one with the extra upgrades here, has managed to get conservative tactics working for him. And right now, with these even military unit counts, composition aside, Black Thought has the sort of advantage with the extra units, the extra stats on those. But, as you mentioned, that trading post is definitely going to be working away. And you can even see in sort of Yurashic's shipment progression, they've been arriving earlier than Black Thought's. And over the course of the game, he's going to have more and more of them. Compared to Black Thought there. So yeah, conservative tactics has now arrived, and I expect we'll see... Yeah,
I think we're going to see a pretty big fight here, and perhaps a deciding fight. If one player wins this fight decidedly, look at how close their villagers are on both sides to being fairly exposed. Explorer down for red. Still, the Explorer is up for blue. That's a pretty big miss by red to not kill it. He's been on 64 HP for a long time.
All the Tomahawks, they tried to get into a good position to begin with to block the Cav, and they did send the Cav away, but the Aena have been working away at Blue's Tomahawks there. They're sort of running, getting thinner and thinner in terms of how many he has, and the Cavalry are going to be more able to easily get at those Aena. Having said that, though, the Cavalry themselves actually have melted away as well, and actually, by the looks of it, Yurashic coming out sort of, well...
Nobody really won. Like, they kind of went in, smashed units a little bit, and then everyone backed out and then left. Status quo. Yeah. The one miss there for red was Black Thought's Explorer lived on 64 HP for a very long time. And obviously, with that extra HP that he grants all of the units around him, that definitely could have gone better for red, but big raid coming here as a result of that fight. Oh no!
Oh dear, there's quite the number of villagers there. That is definitely going to be game defining if he loses a good few of these. Without those, that does make Yurashic clearly in the economic lead and is sort of going to outmass his opponent the longer this goes on. Fortunately, did not lose as many as I thought he was going to, but still, maybe he's going to even up here. There's certainly quite a few villagers sort of misplaced on the front near this hunt. Where are they going to go? Where's his next hunt? There's no hunt left on Yurashic's side of the map. If Black Thought can adequately fight over this location here, Yurashic has no easy way to gather food, and that could spell a quick sort of end to the military unit production, and could be a very nice thing for Black Thought there. At the moment, though, the villager's going to continue to gather food, and it doesn't look like he's able to push him off there. Certainly very even military unit counts. He could fight for it. Perhaps he's waiting, though, for another batch of units or perhaps a military sort of upgrade.
There's so much tension here in the middle of the map, and now with both players having sent infantry hit points.
Look at that, the fire pit being built just behind the coin mine. Is he going to start spawning warriors in this immediate location just to help out in the fight?
Or perhaps he could just have built it due to the fact that, his villagers were gathering from this hunt, and as he ducks in and out of this fight with his villagers, he wants something for them to do, right? And so I actually like that. I think it's kind of a cute play where the villagers can't gather. You might as well put them to work doing something while you fight for this location where they're actually going to
think they're going to be doing.
Yeah, they're going to benefit you, right?
Yeah, and it absolutely will. He's using the Explorer dance to bring that back to life here. Perhaps doesn't want to quite push out just yet, waiting for the extra HP buff I believe it gives you in the crack shot ability. The Explorer has arrived, and now he's going to sort of, by the looks of it, get ready to push back in. 3 more Canyon K. I've been playing the campaign far too much. Canyon Horsemen are entering the fray there, and I think this spells go time for Yurashic. He's repping a 20-point score lead. Look at the military unit difference. They're up 20 military population, and now his Explorer's back to life. Has good upgrades, though, so does his opponent here. Looks like this is where he wants to take the fight with the extra unit. Black Thought does have a military unit upgrade arrive just in time. Perhaps some military units can pop out of that war hut there. Certainly going to need them, but the cavalry... not able to get into such a good spot versus those archers there. Moving the Tomahawks around, just sort of around the coin mine, blocking Yurashic's cavalry entirely.
Yeah, but at the same time, Black Thought has spent a lot of time just running his stuff around, whereas Yurashic's Aena have just sat in the background doing relentless damage over the course of this fight. And we can see how that has really added up to a pretty significant difference here. Yurashic winning this fight, and unfortunately I think that's going to spell the end of the game for Black Thought. He's going to, especially if he loses this location, look at how exposed all of his villagers are. In fact, he's even built farms.
Here we go. Big batch of cav coming in. Doesn't look like there's any tomahawks there to defend this at all. Oh no, wait, are there? No, there isn't. He's going to do lots of... They're going to do quite a number of damage here. Though, you know, he does, to use the ZutaZuta analogy, he does just have more stuff. And that's usually the deciding factor. The cav did some good damage there, considering how few Aena there were backing him up. Another batch and... would have been, well, it's not like he's going to have easy access to another batch. Certainly, though, does force the enemy off, and for the time being, is
lives to see another
he's having
day.
to transition to farms.
Lives to see another day. But like you mentioned, more importantly, not able to push his opponent off this location. There's still a lot of hunt left on the map. If you take a look at these two spots and how much hunt is there, and the fact that Yurashic is going to be able to gather from it, or should be trying to gather from it, as we can see he's got a couple villagers back here. He's also built one mill in the back up here, but there's still a lot of hunt on the map, and if either player is able to control that hunt and gather from it, obviously it's going to be a huge advantage moving forwards. But yes, like you mentioned, Yurashic operating underneath the ZutaZuta principle, which says sometimes when you have more stuff, you just win the game.
I've been using the ZutaZuta box theorem as well.
They're two very insightful things. Probably the two.
If I wrote an essay on Age of Empires 3, I'd have to cite you and the box theorem.
They're probably the two most profound things I've ever said: the box theorem and the more stuff principle.
Yeah. Zuta says no. Think inside the box.
Still, we can see Black Thought coming up here, poking a little bit, doing a little bit more damage, killing one or two villagers. This is what he's going to need to continue to do. Try and get any little edge he can, just because things are still very, very close. Take a look at the villager counts.
Yeah, they are.
50 villagers, and despite the 10 military difference,
50.
You know, having an extra 10 Aena isn't really that helpful in trying to siege down like a war hut and bust a position open. So, it's still not a clear-cut win here for Yurashic. He definitely has an advantage, but anytime you have Cav with upgrades on the field, you know, those Cav, if they swing into one misplaced Aena ball, you know, could absolutely rip apart the Aena and get a really nice advantage.
Speaking of Aena balls, doesn't have too many Aena, but yes, certainly a lot of Cannier horsemen there. Isn't able to really do much with them though, considering the enemy sort of has a reasonable tomahawk mass. There's just this big stalemate in the middle of the map. Gonna come back in, maybe gonna shoot a few more villagers, was doing that earlier, and as you mentioned, has to do everything in his power to sort of get that small edge over his opponent. Could take, he's coming back in now, gonna take those 4 vills, but perhaps this is why they're not gathering from all this hunt in the middle. Certainly a lot of hunt, and sort of Black Thought now starting to sort of use some of it, which is definitely a good thing. But with all these villages being very vulnerable, perhaps it is just safer with all this tension in the middle of the map to gather from hunts. From
the farms
there. And let's take a look at their farm counts. Right now we see, I don't think there's a tab that actually counts them, but there are 3 farms for Yurashic and 2
3, it looks like 3 apiece. And it makes sense. I mean, essentially Iroquois units cost so much food, right? You just need to have a constant food production. And both sides obviously scared of aging up. Sending 600 coin here and trying to sink 1,200 food into aging, especially when you're on mills, and army sizes are this big, you could just risk getting steamrolled and run over, right? But it's looking like whoever may pull that trigger and get some sort of sneaky age up in is perhaps going to be the one who's going to emerge victorious from this particular game, just because both players finding it very, very difficult to break into either side's positions. Black Thought mentioning, how about
no rush there. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The age up is definitely something that will be very strong. It's certainly once you get up, you have access to more shipments, which by this point in the game they must certainly be running out of. And you do obviously have access to those upgrades as well. Pulling the trigger is sort of worrying, though, because you do spend time not making military units, and you could sort of get overpowered here. But at this point in the game, we have such large armies. Slowing down to not producing, 2,200 resources worth of units isn't quite as impactful as it would have been, say, 5-10 minutes ago. If you were choosing to go up to Fortress Edge. I think it's easier to sneak in an age up at this point in the game. Though having said that, Yurashic does take out the enemy war hut. I was going to call it a blockhouse there for a moment. Is he going to come back in there with his army?
Looks like he wants to, and then he sees the tomahawk count, and then he just kind of runs. But getting a lot of damage here.
Playing a game of chess here.
On these tomahawks with his Aena.
Yeah, nice. Looking at that and bringing the cav down south, trying to get a good position around the Aena, but the tomahawks being pulled back. And by the looks of it, Yurashic just going to get entirely back there. Just a skirmish, just a lot of tension here. Do you think that, we see Yurashic stacking food now? Actually, so it's
They
Black
could potentially be thinking, like, hey, I need to age at this point, but it's going to be so hard to sneak an age up in.
It's either go or age. It's one or the other, I suppose, or continue this stalemate.
I really like Blackthought's composition here a lot more. I don't really like what he's done with his cav there. I'm glad to see he's backing them out, but I do like his composition. I like the fact that he's got the cav. I think it's going to give him a lot more flexibility. And we can see the tomahawks. Look at, they're not really doing that much damage.
Yeah, they're dropping away pretty quick. Aena, killing them, melting them down. And once they're gone, there's really not a lot to stop his cav just absolutely slashing through all of the enemy Aena. 3 cavalry of sort of red, the Yurashic do sort of join the fight there, but there is more than enough tomahawks to fend that back here. And all this time, it just feels like Blackthought fighting with less units and coming out on top. Yurashic sneaking in a farm upgrade as well. That just says to me he's running out of shipments to send, but at this point could be quite good considering it does have 40 villages gathering food at the farms. That's actually
I will be very interested to see what Blackthought's next shipment is. He has a shipment available to him. He hasn't sent it yet. I would love to see him ship coin and age up here, just due to the fact, like, look at how slow Team Food Silos is. That provides him, when it hits the floor, it provides him literally nothing until those farms really just continue to kick in. And obviously, over the course of the game, it will provide him plenty of value. But the immediateness of the coin shipment could really catapult you into the third age, get a nice tech advantage. And because Blackthought has continued to have the better army compositions, in my opinion, throughout most of this game, as a result of that, if he's able to sneak in an age up and get some sort of additional tech advantage, maybe get an upgrade for his Kanya, an upgrade for his Aena, maybe sneak in some Forest Prowlers, something like that with a little more range, a little more DPS, definitely going to be very good for him. But at the same time, Yurashic just keeps dumping resources into more and more units, and just take a look at how his CavCon is starting to grow here. It's a really scary proposition to try and age, especially with Blackthought so extended here. If he had these farms back at home so that he didn't have to necessarily worry about overextending, it would be so much better for him. But
are we having a bit of a clash here? Looks like he's going in. The armies are going to collide. Is it? Are they full on fighting, or is this just a bit of a skirmish? Cav on cav by the looks of it. Whilst sort of Aenas and Tomahawks are mixed in at the back, sort of dealing damage. It looks like Blackthought isn't wanting to fight that, and is going to head on out of there. Yurashic does have more military units than him, so perhaps the right decision for Blackthought to get out of here. But Yurashic not going to pull the trigger either and push in. If he does, though, as you point out, these farms here, take control of that location, and suddenly you've seized 800 wood worth of food gathering infrastructure and denied like 20 villages from working as well. Replacing those farms is very difficult to do. Is he going to be able to take it, though? I feel like he does have sort of the edge in terms of military for this fight here, and it's not like Blackthought can go any further back. He has to take a fight here.
He's sort of forced. He cannot afford to lose this location where he's built these 2 farms. If he loses that, as you mentioned, it's 800 wood, plus he has to rebuild it, and those villagers stop gathering. And he loses a production facility on top of all of that. So losing this location, I think if he loses this location, especially if he loses the location with the ability to farm, is going to just lose the game. We can see here he comes racing in at the last minute to try and save it.
Ooh, big surround on the Aena. Nice positioning there if he actually manages to start fighting, though. Looks like the Tomahawks have managed to sneak their way through into hand combat. The Aena are now safely behind and sort of mixed in the trees as well. Cav on cav for the most part, with some melee Tomahawks mixed in here, whilst the Aena sort of try to focus, I suppose, the Tomahawks down from the back. and then sort of DPS down the remaining units there. But it looks like in the Cav fight here, blue definitely losing there. Red coming out on top, and now these Cav can quite easily surround the blue units, and that does spell the end of the game there. Quite the interesting mirror. Quite a long Iroquois mirror. Not often do you see a 27-minute game with Iroquois in it, especially with two Iroquois in it.
Usually they're pretty short, right? They're like 12 minutes long or something like that. But there's just so much tension, and I go back to the trading post. I still think, I think for the most part, Black Thought played better for the majority of the game. I think the one saving grace for Yurashic was he did have that trading post, and because he had that trading post, he was able to keep even in XP, despite the fact that he was losing fights. We go all the way back to like 12 minutes, where we were fighting up to the north side of this map, underneath this war hut here for Black Thought. And time again, despite the fact that he was behind slightly in terms of military count, maybe even villager count, he was kind of winning those fights, right? With the better compositions, the better unit positioning, maybe the better control. And when you're winning fights, you're gaining more XP just by definition of the game. You get XP for killing units. You kill more units than you're losing, you're gaining more XP. And so Yurashic needs some way to balance that out and some way to keep his XP level high, and it just so happened that he happened to have that trading post. Did he not have that trading post advantage? I don't think that he would have been able to keep up an XP, and I think Black Thought would have just kind of rolled him over with superior unit count, superior unit control, etc. But keeping the XP close, keeping the middle portion of the map secure for himself, allowed him to stay in the game for 20 minutes, and then eventually got out that big batch of cav, got into one good fight. And once he's won this position, once he's kind of held this location, now Black Thought is a little bit out of position here with his rest of his eco. So very difficult.
Throughout the most of that game, actually, Black Thought was ahead in terms of resources gathered.
Yeah, he had that hunting dogs upgrade, right?
Which
was huge that his opponent didn't have.
And villager count, Yurashic slightly ahead, except sort of in the immediate early game, I think, when Black Thought had that 5 villager shipment out for a significant period of time longer. Does lose a few villagers sort of in the mid game, but for the most part, very even. Do quite like the CometK going on in the chat.
I just
there.
realized that.
I joined in.
He's just got more stuff. Yeah. The more stuff principle.
Is that what you're calling it? The more stuff
That's the new official name for it, the more stuff principle.
Alright, well, that does conclude game number 2. And now the score
2 games
is
to 0 for Yurashic.
2-0. Don't go anywhere, guys. More Age of Empires 3 coming up in just a moment.
Usually we see a lot of India on Mongolia, sometimes some China on Mongolia, but not often do we see a lot of German gameplay played on Mongolia, so it'll be interesting to see how that ends up turning out.
Yeah, true. Definitely. I wonder if the trading post on Mongolia is going to impact this matchup in any way. Obviously, trading post desirable if you have the 200 wood, but then in the German mirror, it's not, well, whilst it's nice, going up to the Fortress Age isn't something that happens 100% of the time. It's not something that always happens in this matchup. Definitely room to see Colonial play, I suppose. Also, definitely room to see Doppelstunners. We don't often see those as well. Looking forward to that. But we do have game number 3 in this best of 7 series happening right about now, with Black Thought spawning in the left-hand side of the map. Obviously, it's German mirror. Obviously, there are 2 wood crates, plus the extra coin that you do get on Mongolia. We'll have to see where that explorer does sort of head off to. There's the axe on this map that's to be found. Maybe you do want to grab those instead. It looks like he's going to pick up his 30 XP treasure there, get those villagers. There's 4 villager shipment on the way that little bit sooner. The XP in the early game is actually more valuable to Germany than perhaps other civilizations then, as a direct result of them having such a good Age 1 shipment. Then probably going to head back, and both players will pick up that sort of native scout that they have access to. Definitely that. And then we'll see where they head off to, probably to build some trading posts, I would imagine. But here is Yurashic on the right-hand side of the map, also playing as the Germans there, ignoring his 30 coin, and by the looks of it, strolling off into the desert. Is Mongolia really a desert? Probably not.
It's just like a barren wasteland, right?
I'm not sure what it is. This one looks barren.
It certainly is barren. I do want to mention quickly that Black Thought has this 85 or 90 wood treasure right outside his base, and I'm so conflicted on taking that little XP treasure. Personally, I don't think I would ever take that little XP treasure, just because I think it ruins a couple of things. One, it slows down your scout, so you're not going to be able to get your Mongol scout nearly as quickly. If we take a look at, just the timing of the treasures, Yurashic obviously got his Mongol scout out a little earlier. Yep. Could make, a difference to getting to, like, these cows a little bit quicker or something like that. And so by not having those, you maybe forfeit a little bit of the cow game early on. Plus, you just spend a lot of your extra time just standing in your base with your explorer. You don't get your explorer out on the map to build a trading post as quickly or to gather cows as quickly, stuff like that as well. So I'm not a big fan of taking that little XP treasure. That little XP treasure, sure, it does help you get out your 2 settler wagons slightly quicker, but in the long run, in the grand scheme of things, does it really make that much of a difference? And the answer is probably not. But we'll see how Black Thought continues to play this. We can see he did not chop any additional wood where Yurashic did. Yurashic did build the trading post and is ahead on the cow game. In part, I would say, to the fact that he got his Mongol scout running around the map a little bit earlier. So we'll see if those little early game advantages.
Is he going to walk back up there and steal the 2 cows?
Delete them! ZutaZuta them! Yes!
50% of the cows did get killed. Yeah, but what if cow was not killed?
Yeah. That's such a ZutaZuta thing to do as well.
To delete them.
Absolutely. You just can't be... It's so long to get that cow all the way back. Like, Red just needs to delete this guy. Put him out of his misery.
Yeah, but then you take the interjection approach. You send it down the exact outer side of the map and follow the black edge all the way around back to your base. No problem.
Yeah, no problem.
Works every time. But I think, there's an interesting thing. In this particular game, the 40 XP treasure actually didn't end up helping him get the shipment faster at all. They both reached 100% for their first shipment at the same time. But I think that's as a result of perhaps the XP he got from the trading post, or maybe it was killing some treasure guardians or something like that, perhaps. Did even it up. But, actually Black Thought was like 35% ahead on his first shipment, something like that, as a result of that XP treasure. I see what you're saying. Certainly it does slow you down and, does have less cows, actually. Actually, he's now got more cows, come to think of it. Whoa.
Yeah, he sniped the one and he forced the delete down the other, so he actually was able to swing that back.
Not too bad. Either way, though, both players heading up. Black Thought does have a little bit of an advantage in terms of age time. Not a huge amount. We'll have to see what he has in mind. Yurashic, of course, gone for that trading post early on in the game, and has it up a bit sooner.
Huge treasure there, especially for a German mirror. 5% cab speed, that represents...
Whoa, I thought that was like 5 extra population. I was like, well, that's not that useful, but 5% cab speed, yeah.
Certainly, especially, when we get in these situations in Age 3 where we have huge amounts of Ulans running around and chasing each other, having that extra 5% speed could be very dynamic, and we'll see whether or not...
Yeah, that's the...
I'm curious to see whether or not that shipment actually makes any sort of difference here in the long run of this game.
It could be the difference between you sort of escaping with 5 Ulan to your enemy who has an extra batch on you that's just popped out, and escaping to fight another day, join up with the rest of your army and be perfectly okay. But if they can catch you up and just kill them off, it's very easy to break 1 stick, but if you try and break 10 sticks all at once, much more difficult if you can kill them separate. I love that analogy. I try to use that every single possible moment that I have access to doing that. But both players now up to the colonial age. We'll have to see what they... Dead cats. Does this make you happy, Zuta?
He's hanging over the edge of the world, that one dead cow. Look at him. He's living on the edge. He's listening to some Bon Jovi.
Where does this Travois man go? He just walks off the edge of the world.
Walks off the edge of the freaking world and shows up on the other side. Can you imagine if you just walked into the Pacific Ocean and you just ended up on the other side of the world?
You're like, whoa!
How great would that be?
Oh dear.
Time travel, it's a thing in this game apparently, or teleportation, I guess more specifically. But either way, what was that? Yurashic, it looks like started a barracks in his base and then deleted it and opted to put it out here instead. So it looks like he definitely has some intentions of doing some sort of doppelsudden rush. And we can see
absolutely 3 in queue right now.
Yeah,
Colonial.
Look at here. This could be punished very, very hard.
Yeah.
A very
5 cab about to
stable.
pop.
Very forward stable.
Yeah, Doppelsudden is very strong against the unit that comes out of that building. And also, you know, as you're pointing out, it is forward. It's quite vulnerable there. Could easily be punished. It does have quite the number of Ulan, though. Perhaps he can make something work. If he's able to raid his opponent, the Doppelsuddens may not be able to really do anything in his base. They'd have to come home and sort of act as some sort of pseudo-defense. Perhaps see if he can pick up any villagers. Lots and lots of units on that sort of gold mine there. Did you build a tiny little wall segment in there?
I don't know. It's really tough.
Yeah.
You can see.
Wait, who has the speed? It was Yurashic who's got that,
has
isn't
the
it?
speed advantage,
Yeah. He doesn't want to. Perhaps though he does want to pursue it. Maybe you get in there, snare them because you have more extra speed. You can get there, close the gap up quickly, and then yes, you have less cavalry, but you've got some massive Doppelsuddens, 5 of them right behind it. It looks like he's going to escape though.
Yeah, but he's got the speed, right? He can catch him. He's got 5% faster units.
True. But he's a nice split. Blackthorpe perhaps knowing that, identifying that, and does split off his cavalry into a small group and a larger group. And at this point, the Doppelsudden is nowhere near. But definitely can catch him. Gonna take out this Explorer here. Deny the Explorer there. Pick up 45 XP as well. This game. So 2 very different agendas. Blackthorpe sending 700 coin, and by the looks of it, committing to the age up there. He's got all the food and coin he needs to do that. Gonna get up to the next age, and Yurashic playing a colonial build, or colonial agenda here. Has got a barracks down with some Doppelsuddeners out, and has now sent 700 wood to lay down some extra sort of housing, which by the looks of it, he has done.
Yeah, he's got lots of houses, and the thing is, though, with these Doppelsunders, he doesn't want to be running around the map like he's doing with them. The whole idea behind the forward barracks and making Doppelsunders is that you punish stuff like these houses and the stable and all of the infrastructure that has been poorly placed here in Blackthorpe's base. That's not happening. If you take a look at where the Doppelsunders are, they're still farting around out here in the middle of the desert. They're really not providing any sort of presence near Blackthorpe's base, and as a result, Blackthorpe has gotten aged up perfectly fine. He hasn't been punished for his infrastructure placement, and he's going to be able to get his 8 skirmishers out when he gets aged up with very little issue, and as a result, going to find himself in a fine position here moving forward, and Yurashic's going to be the one playing catch-up.
Yeah, I saw it certainly Blackstar versus H2O for the grand finals of the Spring Championships. We saw H2O try and get up to the Fortress Age. It was a German mirror, by the way, I'm talking about. So similar to what Blackthorpe is doing here, but Blackstar put on the pressure with the Doppelsuddens and actually forced H2O to not age up at all and actually build a barracks of his own and sort of train units of his own, just so he wouldn't lose all the houses in his buildings here. Certainly, as you're pointing out, these Doppelsuddens could do quite a number of damage to this stable here, and they might even do that. He's only just hit up to the next stage. It could just tear down this barracks there, or perhaps the house. Of course, the skirmisher shipment and Minutemen could arrive any second now. There it is, and these Doppelsuddens they've missed their window of opportunity to do damage here.
Yeah.
And now, really, these units are not very useful at all. They're very, very easily countered by skirmishers that are very easily able to kite them with the longer range and certainly faster movement speed as well.
Yeah, and I mean,
what do these even do now?
I think he resigns, honestly. He's so far behind at this point. Blackthorpe has gotten out his skirmisher shipment. He did have to call Minutemen, but it was just more of a safety precaution. I think we saw Yurashic posturing to try and take down some of these houses, but it was just a little bit too late. If he would have just done it, as
soon as the first 5 was trained.
Yeah, or at least not run around so much in the back of his base trying to catch cab with them.
Maybe you just send one Doppelsudden back if you're that concerned about enemy cavalry. They're not going to get too close, right?
Or you cut
a
Doppelsudden, or use your cab from shipments and Minutemen, and you hold in that way.
Either way, I think the point that we're making here is that didn't do enough damage when he had the opportunity to with the Doppelsuddens, and now Blackthorpe's safely up to the next stage, has shipments coming out, and for a moment there I thought those cavalry were going to get up close and just punish all of those skirms, but it does have a 5 cav shipment. Is that a 5 cav shipment?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's Yurashic's what we're talking about. He's anyway.
That would,
safely up to the next
yeah,
stage.
it would be very interesting if Blue decided to send 5 camps.
I was gonna cause send 8? No.
Well, it looks like he's gonna fight, and I mean, this is probably his best chance. He needs to do it before anything too crazy gets happening. He's trying to get the Doppelsonders up there. We can see the veterancy upgrade is completed for the blue Ulans, which is going to make them significantly stronger. And now 5 Doppelsonders popping out from the right side for Black Thought as well. Pretty decent kiting going on for the skirms. The Doppelsonders
kept getting shit.
Oh, they died so quick. Oh my word.
Actually, Black Thought, I was going to say, never mind,
Yeah,
actually, those 5 dops have cleaned them up, and he's still got plenty. Well, he's got a couple skirms left as well. Basically, everything's even in terms of military count and villager population, but now Black Thought is going to change that. He's now going to be up in military and is an entire age up as well, and has access to much, much better shipments and, obviously, units. So, at this point, yeah, it's reflected in the score difference as well. Yeah. Black Thought in a resoundingly good spot at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the point where everything is about even, except Black Thought has a 2200 advantage in terms of age up. I mean, if you take a look at Yurashic, he's not aging anytime soon. I mean, look at his current state: 500 coin and 75 food. I mean, there's no way he's ever going to sneak an age up in on that. He's gathering from berries just due to the fact that it is Mongolia. It doesn't have a lot of safe hunt, and now that he's lost any sort of aggression, he's really forced just to gather in his base, and there's really not anything that he can do to get back in this game. I guess his one perhaps chance is just to get 10 or 15 Doppelsonders, and then by some miracle of God, catch the skirmishers and everything just walking across the middle of the map. Maybe he wins then. But even then, like you mentioned, look at the scores. They're getting out of hand. 30 points up now for Black Thought. Really in a good spot. And now he's, getting some raiding pressure, and he's starting to establish more infrastructure, got his barracks up. Everything is really starting to come together for him now, and looking like he's going to be able to pull this game back. 7 skirm shipment has arrived, and it looks like he's just going to start poking out across the map, and certainly should do so. He's got the tempo advantage. He's got all sorts of army composition advantage. Just needs to push it.
Yeah, I think though, look at the armies. At this point in time, Yurashic does have more units there, and could perhaps punish him for this. I think Black Thought is waiting on 1,000 coins so he can send a mercenary shipment, certainly getting close to that total. By the looks of it, has actually bought some wood out of nowhere. But Doppelsonders are very, very weak, as it turns out, to skirmishers there, though they are up quite close and personal. Could do quite a lot of damage here. I think 5 doppels do pop out, though. Actually going to start trading some units, and at that point now, he's not going to go for the mercenary shipment. Has got some more units on the board, and it shouldn't be completely.
And those skirmishers are just representing so much extra damage against all of the infantry. They're just so strong at this point. Plus, he did manage to sneak in the upgrade for his Ulans as well before he lost his stable, which as a result, any of those free Ulans that are coming with the shipments are de facto better as well. They are upgraded, so nice little advantage there, even though it maybe doesn't show quite as much. But Yurashic knows he's dead, resigns. He's never going to be able to catch up at this point, and
there's that.
Yep, moves on to game number 4.
Game number 4, absolutely. The score is currently 2-1 in favor of Yurashic. Black Thought picking up his first victory here in this best of 7 series, of course. Best of 7 means first to 4 wins. This is still early days for this series, potentially. Another win from Black Thought, and we're 2-2 games apiece.
Yeah,
and
back to square.
Yep, and still potentially quite a number of games to go. There is that. So, let's take a quick look at the post-game on my side. I'm not sure if you've already left.
I've already left. I also don't know which civs Yurashic necessarily plays. I know he plays a lot of China. I mean, we saw him play that. And he obviously plays a pretty decent hero, as we saw him win with that. But I don't know how deep his civ pool is, and I know Black Thought's is pretty deep. I've played him a little bit, somewhat recently, and he's played like French and Japanese, and we've seen him now win with Germans, and he's played Euro and a whole bunch of other stuff. So it could potentially like have a very deep civ pool, and obviously in this kind of format where you win with a civ and then you can't play it again, rewards that kind of experience. So be interesting to see what civ Yurashic pulls out next.
We shall see. Do you have any rules in Smackdown over who picks first?
So it used to be, well, it used to be loser picks second in terms of their civilization.
Oh yeah, so they have it.
So they have the advantage, but I've kind of just gone to like play nice children, and hopefully things just kind of work themselves out.
It is Smackdown, which is a more casual. It's not exactly a the most. Well, it is competitive, but it's not like a sort of tournament format where. I think I'd like to see the return of that. For those of you who BPDS comment was timed out, not by me. I'd like to point out anyway. Why was he chatting to himself? There's like 4 accounts all named BP. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I used to do this Challenges of the New World. It was a sort of a best of, quite a long series. It was like a best of 15 or something ridiculous. The idea was you had to win once with every vanilla civ. So that's first to 8 wins, and we got quite a way into it before Yumayu and Azam didn't want to play any more games for whatever reason. But I'd quite like to do something like that again. Not necessarily just like I did Eurocivs, because you know, if I included all 14 civs, first to 14 wins
Best
is
of
quite the series. Maybe I limit it to like you pick 7 civs or something like that, or maybe fewer than that, and you have to get a win with all of them. I think a format like that could be fun, like as sort of a invitational event that I might host with a small prize pool. Anyway, Smackdown though is sort of the weekly casual. Well, it's not really that casual. Anyway, I better get clicked in.
Classic best of 27.
Yep, definitely. It was usually just one series between 2 people with, you know, just a big prize pool. It wasn't like a tournament or anything. It was just 2 people playing it. I only ever did 1 season of that, but I'd like to do another one with a significant prize pool, like an actually relevant prize pool. I think last time it was something silly like £20, which is nothing. But could be fun. Anyway, we do have an Ottoman mirror by the looks of it on CometK. Definitely a lovely map. I like this version specifically. I'd like to see a version of this map that spawns specifically this less wintry version.
Yeah, this tile set.
Yeah, I like this tile set more, honestly.
It's really aesthetically pleasing, certainly.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like the... Yeah, it's a good map, CometK. I think it's got a place in Age of Empires 3 as a unique map. There's no other map that really achieves what this one does. I guess it sort of reminds me of Yellow River, but it's actually very different.
Yeah, it's like a mix between Yellow River and Siberia, almost.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I see what you're saying with like a divided map. Yeah.
Divided map, but it's also a little bit more choky, and the trading post is a little bit more prominent in the regard that it's like right down the middle of the map instead of isolated, you know, significantly further south of your base. So
it reminds me a bit of Great Plains as well.
Yeah. Definitely the hunt aspect is similar to Great Plains. Lots of hunt, lots of food on the map.
And also Himalayas with these random blobs of walls, these hills that always spawn in a set location. I like this map a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, that's the point that I have there. I think it follows there's a common trend with Gaia's maps. They seem a little bit less or more restricted in terms of they're less open. Easier to wall and more chokes and stuff like that. But we do see 2 trading posts out of Yurashic in the early game. Does not find any wood treasures, has just gone out of his way to gather up the wood to lay that down. This looks like Yurashic's going to have a delayed age up time, but actually has the same amount of food as Blackthought does. How did that come out?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to figure that. He must have... Is there a wood crate still? How is he up that much wood?
I mean, Blackthought found 35 food, or perhaps he had, the only explanation is perhaps quite a lot of idle time.
No, but I'm even looking at the trees. I'm trying to find the tree that he chopped from, but he didn't chop any wood from any of the trees in his base. That I can tell. No, they're all at 300.
And Yurashic sending capitalism as his first home city shipment. Quite the choice.
Interesting. Oh, he didn't build a house. That's why. Okay, it's all starting to make sense now. Okay.
Yeah, makes sense. Oh, and he hasn't overpopped him. Like he can still continue to make villages because the shipment he's just sent. Capitalism does not take up any population, but it's sort of like having a villager shipment because it generates a small trickle of coin there. This is actually quite interesting. It allows him to get an extra trading post out and probably have enough coin to the coin you need, that 300 coin during transition. For the age up. This is probably some sort of well-designed sort of meta FF that is designed to win in the mirror matchup. Yeah. This looks very interesting.
It's funny because I'm surprised I didn't notice it earlier, because this exact build that he's doing is exactly the build I do with Ottoman and CompStomp. And I know that sounds like a totally newbie thing to say, but my old roommate, who I lived with for several years in college, likes to play CompStomp, and sometimes we play CompStomp. And when I play CompStomp and I play Ottoman, this is the exact build I do. I send capitalism and don't make a house so I can get extra.
Why?
So you can get an extra trading post.
Oh, what? So you just give him your wood?
No. You get an extra trading.
Oh, what you
post.
do this as
I
well?
do this.
Okay, yeah.
You build an extra trading post, and then you send capitalism so you don't get popped.
Yeah. This is really cool. Like the extra, he's already got an entire shipment stacked up, and he's at 92% there. It's effectively 2 shipments, and the extra power this is going to give him in the FF is incredible. What is 3 villagers in an Ottoman mirror? They don't do anything. Like villagers, you don't need them in like, this is all about shipments and tempo and age up times, and villagers really don't like. At least for Ottoman.
Yeah, they don't make that much of a difference, right? I mean, you're not going to make more than 25 villagers likely with Ottoman, especially in a mirror anyways. Hell, you could even argue that sending 3 villagers just pushes you closer to that max economic potential a little bit faster.
This is really
having
cool.
This extra little shipment trickle is definitely going to help you throughout the remainder of the game.
Yeah, considering like the FF is so short, and it's all about the shipments. This is well, actually, speaking about shipments, his first shipment is 700 wood there, and that's not what I was expecting out of him at all. Hasn't chosen to send 700 coin like Black Thought has, and by the looks of that, Black Thought is going to be doing a fast fortress. You can see has nearly all the food he needs to age up, and certainly the coin he requires is on the floor there.
Yeah,
definitely. But actually, Yurashic not doing that.
He's
laying down a bunch of houses.
He's Jan Abissing. He's definitely he's playing an age 2 build, whereas
2 forward barracks. Yeah.
Black Thought
I love that wall.
Black Thought is definitely FF, and we can see his resources starting to stack up. Does have his 700 coin on the floor. Is he just not gathering it, or does he just not? Yeah. He's only got like 1 villager gathering from it, so he's just gathering a little bit slowly, but. We'll see whether or not the pressure is here. We can also see Black Thought has laid down this wall, which
I love that wall.
Which is going to be pretty good at. Oh no, he's going.
What's the cross bit for? I don't understand.
I'm not entirely sure. Maybe so that he could build a gate there and like have 2 layers of gate to loop through. I don't actually know. That's.
Yeah, well, that sounds pretty cool. Anyway, this wall here is only costing him 15 wood, maybe 20 wood actually, with a half-built segment on the end there. But this is very cheap, and the amount of time this is going to buy him is probably over 30 seconds, which is basically an entire shipment, which a lot of the time when you're fast fortressing is what you need to sort of stabilize and not just
roll over and die.
More villager gather time. Yeah, an extra shipment is definitely very good.
But at the same time, it maybe doesn't matter that much due to the fact that Red is likely waiting for at least a batch of Avis guns to come out and a few more Janissaries as well before he really wants to push his way forward. And so, sieging down this wall with these Janissaries isn't going to be that much of a difference. And if he is able to come up here and snipe this villager and deny the rest of this wall coming up, could potentially, still apply a lot of pressure. If we take a look at where Black Thought is at in his age up progression, he's only halfway up. And as a result of that, this pressure is going to come in, start, doing some pretty significant damage to him. And Yurashic is pretty committed behind this. We can see he's sent 700 coin, 600 coin, is going to be training a lot of Avis guns. And as a result, still a bit of a tenuous position for the blue player.
That's That's quite another wall being added in, though. It's going to buy him a bit more time, but this wall's significantly more expensive. I don't think he realizes it's still under construction there, perhaps a little bit out of line of sight. It is going to force this wall down. It's going to go down pretty quick, considering Abbas guns do have quite the number of... Well, actually, their siege attack's not that good. I thought it was stronger than that, considering they're called siege troopers.
Yeah.
Or gunpowder unit. Anyway, yes, it looks like Yurashic up to the Fortress Age here, and has sent 5 Janissary... Oh, no, that's his opponent. Sorry, I thought he sent 5 during transition. Anyway, Black Thought up to the next stage, is going to have his shipment on the way. Most likely 2 cannons is going to be quite effective against the Abbas guns, but equally, Abbas guns do siege damage with their ranged attack, and for that, you know, the Falconets won't resist anything, and they have 75% range resist, which won't be resisted, but certainly Abbas guns very weak to cannon fire with their low HP. The other shipment he could send, I suppose, is the like 5 Hussars, but you know, with the number of Jans stacking up there, perhaps not the best choice as well. I'm not actually sure what I've never ever worked out which build was sort of favoured in this matchup, the Ottoman Colonial or the sort of just the straight fast fortress.
I think with the build that Yurashic's done, he's in an okay spot here. The one thing that, you know, Black Thought doesn't have against this pressure is he doesn't have the tower from the Governor age up, which he did not do. He used Quartermaster to get to age 2, so that extra little bit of damage and stuff really adds up over time. And the Avis gun count is growing here, and you know, there's not a lot to protect the Falconets, and as you mentioned, you know, Avis guns do cut through Falconets very, very quickly with their ranged damage. So as a result of that, he needs to be very careful with how he controls these Falconets.
Here we go. Black Thought gonna have to be very careful. You can see he's got those cannons set up right away. He does not want to miss a volley. Should those Abbas guns be shooting at his Falconets, he wants to be shooting right back. He is not gonna lose anything for free. He's gonna have to make Yurashic pay for the damage he's doing. But they've been set up. They're no longer. They're now in limbo mode. They're not in their attack form anymore. He's gonna have to set them up again. The Abbas gun's gonna get through and do like no, he doesn't. Loses some shots versus the Abbas versus the Janissaries here. Quite a lot of damage from the Falconets there, but one does go down very quickly. Calls the Minutemen. The second one, I think only one, or maybe actually it was 2. One shot from each cannon went off there. Does look like a lot of Abbas guns have gone down. Seems like a fair trade, actually. Yep. And now at this point, Black Thought. Oh my god, these names. Yeah. Is up. Got these veteran Jans, and Minutemen have been called.
He's okay. He's perfectly okay. And he also does have that veterancy upgrade for his Jans, which is going to be quite nice. And as you mentioned, he did get some. He got, especially that first volley that he got off against the Avis guns with the Falconets, did a lot of damage, and that can't be negated. But we'll have to see whether or not a few more Avis guns pop out here. If he continues to stay this overextended and a few more Avis guns join this fight, still could be in a little bit of a tenuous position. He has to be very careful with how he proceeds from here. Despite the fact that, oh, well, there they come. There's a couple more Avis guns and 3 Hussars coming out as well, so...
Yeah, 3 Hussars joining the fray. Looks like he's going to have to get back here. Could lose a lot of HP on his Jans on the retreat there. Certainly the Minutemen are going to go down as well. Does have 1,000 coin laid down on the 4. Black Thought probably going to be thinking about collecting that up any second now, and that does mean his next shipment... well, at least one he has in mind, is going to be those Mamelukes. Absolutely disgusting. But, you know, actually I think losing more Janissaries than he really needed to, pushing back out there. Perhaps ought to have had that in mind, that Mamelukes were, you know, going to come, and they are, you know, very slow in the sense that it takes 2 shipments to get them on the board. And for that reason, you ought to be playing defensively until they arrive. But equally, I see why he pushed out. Certainly had, you know, just killed off all his opponent's Abbas guns, and pushing out there looked very, very appealing. But maybe overcommitted. As a result, does lose some units here, but still in a perfectly good spot. Abbas guns starting to come back on the board, but that is not the unit Yurashic really, really needs right now. He needs to be stacking up the Jans so that those Mamelukes aren't too effective against.
He needs to gather this coin ASAP. He's got the he needs to get that out. And I mean, he's telegraphing that he's sending Mamelukes as his next shipment, and I mean, he needs to gather that up so that he can actually make sure that he gets that sent. In fact, I think he sent something that's not Mamelukes, because he had the shipment available and he spent it now.
Yeah, he spent it now. Oh wow, what's he going to do with all this coin then? It's just going to sit there? I guess he's got 500 more that he just can't gather up as a result of gathering it too slowly. Now, the enemy is just going to sit on top of it. Fort Wagon does come out, does not get sniped, fortunately. Maybe he's going to use this coin for some sort of industrial age play now. He's definitely, with this fort, saying to his opponent, I'm going to sit in my base.
Yeah.
Black Thought resigns. Looks like he was just showing us what his shipment was.
He apparently has an FI deck. Interesting. I mean, if you take a look at where he's gathering in the south of the map, soon he's going to be out of resources. Unfortunately, that fort didn't get down in a good spot. Imagine if he would have gotten the fort in a location where it could at least secure resources. He would have been in a much better spot. But at this point, he's just losing a lot of... Well, I don't know if he's actually dead here. He doesn't have Minutemen. Well, I guess he doesn't have any villagers in his town center really either. That's kind of a little bit of a blunder, I guess, as well. Not only does he not have villagers up here to gather this coin crate, which is in an awkward spot, but at the same time, he doesn't have villagers in his town center, which are really part of what you need to deal damage to the Abus guns. Obviously, Abus guns, as the siege trooper, do take extra damage from the town center. We can see the town center does have that 2 or... Oh, no...
Are you sure?
Yeah, you're right. It does less damage.
Does it? Wait. Yeah, it does do less damage. I always thought it was... I think villages have times 2 versus... Minutemen, that's what it is. Minutemen do times 2 versus... Yeah, but like, what does that actually mean, that siege unit there? I always thought, like, I originally thought it meant against, like, falconets or units that, do siege damage, but then I thought... Does that multiplier only refer to units that are doing siege damage? Ones that are actively using their siege attack against the building?
I
don't know what that actually means, this multiplier. I've never tested it. I think what it means is it does like damage to units that are sieging. And then when they stop sieging, it doesn't do the multiplier anymore.
Either way, it means. By having villagers in your town center, you're able to snipe down the Abus guns really, really easily, which is the important part. Because they are very weak units in terms of hit points, by having villagers in your town center and hitting them with 90 HP, they do die definitely in 2 shots, which is the important part. And by not being able to snipe those, we can see the Abus guns just kind of able to sit here in the back and do a lot of damage to the Janissaries as a result. And I don't know that Black Thought was necessarily dead. He's definitely got an uphill battle, but I mean, he's got the fort down. The fort will get up. Maybe you can hope that your opponent makes a blunder around your fort. Obviously, the fort does a lot of damage over time, but I guess he was just feeling the pressure of running out of hunts. We can see down here to the south only these 3 dead caribous, and then he doesn't really have anywhere to gather. And
and I think you've sent a fort. Your opponent hasn't. Your opponent has 2 trading posts upgraded. Your villager counts are even. Your opponent has capitalism as well. And does Yurashic at this point just go, alright, you have a fort, I'll just control the resources? And villages aren't that important in the Ottoman mirror, but having access to resources
definitely is.
So, so there is that. Just to follow up on the multiplier question, I don't think it has anything to do with units that are sieging, because come to think of it, pikemen don't take any more or less damage when they're sieging, so it must refer to things like
siege troopers, But I'm not sure. I know that grenadiers and Abus guns are light artillery and not heavy artillery, and so that just says artillery. So I'm assuming it means all artillery, but
it says siege unit. What is that? I don't know what that is.
You
mean the artillery?
On the town center.
Yeah, I was looking at the anti-ship attack. What the hell does that mean?
It's like when you drive a ship too close to a town center, the big cannonball comes shooting out of it regardless, right?
Yeah, but like times 0.5 versus siege unit. What is that?
I don't know. Is maybe one of the boats? Maybe the boats have different
tags.
I don't know.
Anyway, I'm going to take a look at the post game and then head.
Someone probably knows better than us.
I always do this. People, This is probably some guy just shouting at his PC. You're so dumb. Why don't you know this?
Someone like Zoe,
I always take a look at.
But
I reckon Azank would know. I reckon Ida Holland's brother, yourself, would know. I reckon what's his name? Can't remember him. Never mind. I always like to look at the post game, even if I don't discuss it, because there's always people who just get really mad if I don't look at it.
Take a look. Pause the stream now.
Yep. At least in the VODs, at least. He says, town centers do regular damage against Abus guns, standard 90. They have a ranged 0.5 against artillery. So it does regular damage versus Abus guns. So it's things like falconets and flying crows and stuff.
Sure.
Galleons and monitors are classed as siege troopers, so they take less damage from town centers. Ah, that makes sense. because galleons never seem to die when they're taking anti-ship damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you read like the tag for galleon, right? Like it's got the tooltip or whatever for like all the boats, and the one for galleon does specifically say like doesn't take damage from buildings, like blah blah blah. Really good
Yeah.
at, and plus it makes sense, right? Because the galleon, its special ability is that it can train troops, right? And so it would make sense that the boat that doesn't take damage from buildings, you know, potentially the boat that you're going to have up against the shore where there are going to be buildings making units, is the one that doesn't take as much damage.
No one ever makes galleons. It's rather. I've made more galleons playing campaign than I have ever done in single player.
I'd like to see
Like they're quite good, aren't they?
a galleon buff, maybe like slightly decreased cost and wood. So they could be like some sort of mobile barracks.
Yeah. But then, like, you don't want them to be a mobile barracks in the sense that they are just made to be a mobile barracks. They need to be, like, relevant in fighting. Because they're just really bad on the... Like, caravels are so much better. Like, a caravel can basically fight a galleon and, like, effectively win if it starts with the special attack that caravel has. Just galleons don't have that, and they're just a lot weaker. Anyway, we're heading into game number
this many.
Yes.
I held up 5 fingers.
Wait. Oh, well, so this is game number 5, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, so is it? What is the score now?
It's 3-1 in favor of Yurashic.
Yurashic on Bengal. Quite the map there. I like this map as well. This is like one of the perhaps most accurately looking maps from what Gaia based it on. All of Gaia's maps look wonderful, especially with high graphics on. The trees in the water. I guess it's basically Bayou. Anyway, another interesting point about boats is that it doesn't have a system like in Age of Empires 2 or Mythology where there was a clear combat triangle. Anyway, it's just
they're more like mechanical things, right? I mean, if you think of like units in StarCraft, a lot of them have mechanical advantages. Like speedlings are just really, really fast units.
Yeah.
And having that extra speed, even though it doesn't maybe necessarily have a multiplier, it provides some sort of mechanical advantage, like being really fast. And so I think of the boat system in AOE 3 as having the mechanical differences more so than the more traditional Age of Empires triangle of counters, where if you take a look at monitors, they're really good at shooting stuff from really long range, and you think of galleons, they're good against buildings and training units, and I mean there's obviously caravels.
Caravels are like all-purpose
fighters,
boat,
all-purpose.
They gather fish. They have a special. They have a decent attack. Yeah, they transport units. Frigates, pretty good. Big broadside attack, strong monster thing. Anyway. I think that's really interesting. I'd like to see boats. I love boats in AOE 3. They look great as well. But we do have a Russian mirror on Bengal. I'm not even sure if you can build a dock on this map. I imagine you can, but why would you?
Yeah.
I don't think a boat would spawn though. It's a bit like Yellow River where you can build it in the shallows, and if you try to train a unit, it won't actually build. It won't create. Anyway, that's completely irrelevant. Though I guess we were just talking about boats. A Russian mirror. We do have Black Thought eating his elephants. I'm intrigued to see if Yurashic has done the same. He has. Often players don't bother collecting those. For some reason, they go for the other hunts. They're having.
What do you think elephant meat tastes like?
I don't know. I've never eaten elephant meat. I imagine every time like someone describes how this meat that they're eating tastes that they've never had before, it's always chicken and something else. Every time.
Yeah.
Everyone compares it to chicken and something else. If it's
chicken or beef, yeah.
So I reckon, chicken and beef. I reckon that's what it would be like. Yeah.
I reckon it's closer. It's more in like the beef line than chicken.
Yeah, well, it's a giant. It looks. I like for some reason. I feel like it's more. Well, it's definitely not a bird. It's definitely more. It's a mammal, so it's more related to a cow than it is a chicken. There, but
that's very true. Yeah. That's an adequate observation. It is an elephant is not a bird.
It's not poultry. Confirmed.
No. Yep.
Yeah. Well,
you heard it here first.
Our commentary insightful and useful as always. But
yes.
what treasures have we seen in this early portion of the game? Nothing hugely interesting. I think Black Thought has found 50 wood, which is certainly better than the other treasures. Looks like 100 food about to go to Yurashic. And aside from that, that's the only pretty big treasure we're finding. Looks like he's going to grab that in time to speed up his age up, though having said that, it is Russia, and aging up is very awkward, so it might not even be useful. 90 wood down there as well?
Yep. I think Black Thought just saw the 100 food treasure being taken. And it was unfortunately a little bit too slow to react to it. that 100 food is definitely, even though it maybe doesn't improve his age up time that much, or maybe not even at all, we do have to remember, anytime you consider a Russian player, they do struggle. You are going to have to make a definitive choice on a 14 bill age up as to whether or not you're going to prioritize making military units or whether or not you're going to be able to prioritize making villagers, especially in those like first little batches. And maybe there's only 3 or 5 seconds of delay either way, but you have to choose one or the other. But now, having gathered that 100 coin or 100 food treasure, that's maybe not necessarily true. Maybe you don't have to make that decision. Quite possible that you can get out both and not have to worry about it. So we'll see whether or not that's true. It looks like he is going to lose his Explorer as a result, being so low HP.
Yeah.
But
maybe the 100 food treasure that he picked up will make up for that. Wait, no. Yeah, Yurashic did pick that up. Yeah. Yeah, definitely very relevant. Because they train in batches, which is an advantage. They train faster, or especially for villagers, they cost less as well. It's good, but equally, as you know, as you mentioned, it's very awkward sometimes. You can't queue both because you have to have all the resources at once to queue them, unlike other civs where you just queue one unit and then top them up and then get all the last 4 in just before they're about to be created, which seems really realistic. But that is such the way of things here. But yes, quite good. Black Thought, though, has a bit of an advantage on that blockhouse going down. Not so much of an advantage that he'll be able to train his first 5 units in his shipment and just siege down the enemy blockhouse, which can happen. Here, though, it looks like Yurashic is going to get that up in enough time to still, not be super vulnerable.
Yeah, definitely going to be fine. Both players were trying to get it in this little peninsula here, but unfortunately for Yurashic, Black Thought kind of beat him to the punch. Did get it down just a hair earlier, and so he had to back off, but we'll see whether or not that actually ends up being important. I still think there's plenty of hunt here for Yurashic, and as long as he's able to be fairly conservative with his units and not lose them, shouldn't run into any position where he just like hard stop runs out of food and dies as a result. Especially not with that nice little treasure that he picked up early.
Definitely, and that's a nice place to put the blockhouse. Yes, he has enough hunt, but certainly that's the prime position, like just on the edge there. Kind of gives you the most map control, and that's of course a facet of this giant wall that runs down this cliff that runs down the edge of the map here. Both players very similar composition, or at least the starting units. Nothing in queue for either player at the moment, I guess. Maybe they we'll put that when they get. Looks like Black Thought is going to be first to queue up his batch of musks. He's going to hit 270 food first. Could be relevant, getting that out a bit sooner. But 5 cav is the first shipment of both players. A very, very strong shipment. The perhaps strongest unit shipment in the game, aside from sort of German ones, which get an extra buff anyway. 5 Cossacks, 750 resources, very strong, and certainly you're going to see that coming out of Russia. Very interested to see what their next shipments are. Perhaps 4 Cossacks as well, going to follow that up. Yurashic pausing.
Yep.
So, headphones. C headphones. Anyway.
Sec headphones.
Oh, I see. You missed out the C and I. Yes, okay.
Yeah. Probably just means his headphones died.
Yep. This is going to be a very tempo-based match, though, I'd imagine. Sort of colonial pressure, trying to control the map, and therefore the hunts that are available on it as well. And we'll see what the next shipments are.
Yeah, and I would assume it'll be 4 Cossacks for both players. If you... Especially with this much... 13 Strela, interesting. With this much tension in the middle of the map, if you don't send a unit shipment, you're going to fall behind. And so at least both players did send a unit shipment. I do think that the 4 Cossacks is going to be significantly better here. And we'll have to see whether or not we have a little bit of a fight and whether or not those extra 4 Cossacks make any difference. Or perhaps we run into a situation where they don't fight until the next shipment comes, and 13 Strela comes for Black Thought, and 4 Cossack comes from the other side. Ooh, but this is a big catch over here, getting a lot of damage on these Cossacks. Gonna pick up 1, 2, gonna pick up a second.
2.5. Oh, all of them, I think. No, the last 2 gonna get away, but taking a lot of damage there. Definitely nice. Certainly, those Cossacks were the things that were going to punish the Strelets that Yurashic sent. Manages to pick some of them off. And as a direct result of that, these Strelets are suddenly looking really good. They're both, one player chooses to send cavalry, which is perhaps the strongest shipment, and one sends the Strelets, which is certainly very good against the Musks here, and obviously the Cossacks are very good against the Strelets. So that sort of loss of cav is going to even that out more for Yurashic there, and is probably quite happy about that.
Yeah, especially now if Yurashic, he knows his opponent is operating with fewer cav than him. if he sends 4 caustic as his next shipment and then just timing pushes off of that, could run into a situation where Black Thought has a really hard time holding it, especially if he does something like say he sends 700 wood or something like that, while Yurashic sends 4 caustic. If he pushes right when the 4 caustic come, before that 700 wood really has any chance to have any sort of accumulated, advantage, could be a very decisive fight, especially with that extra batch of Strelly in the mix there. Very curious to see what happens with this next shipment, and the game could potentially hinge on that next shipment. There's 13 Strelly for one side. Let's see what it is for the other.
Yeah. All this time, though, worth pointing out that Yurashic has steel traps researched for him. Oh, actually, that's only just been researched, I think. Yeah, this sort of 8-minute mark there. Anyway, got his place of mines and his steel traps down. And Black Thought only just managed to getting sort of a ganks, or there is a bit of a conflict here. Did we see a shipment just yet?
Yeah, both sides have their military shipment, and I like this push up here from Yurashic. He knows that he just killed some caustics defending that raid. He also knows he's 1 villager down at the very least, but he knows that he can take this fight without having to risk losing, the cab advantage, and he's doing exactly that. Kills all of the cab of his opponent, and now is just going to have free reign here with the rest of his units. And look, he still has a couple of those caustics alive, tanking a lot of damage, eating a lot of the Strelly shots, giving him some really good position. It looks like just going to be a resign here from Black Thought, realizing he can't even it up. And the extra caustics do prevail. Takes the game number 4 and the series as a result.
Game number 4, yeah. Yurashic ending the series there. Bad raid happened, he says. Raid wasn't bad. I think bad in the sense that Black Thought lost more units than he was perhaps anticipating.
Yeah, I mean, he lost 3 caustics, for 1 villager. The villager kill was certainly nice, but Russia is one of those civilizations that getting a villager kill isn't going to make that much of a difference, right? I mean, having the extra units in this fight at 9 minutes is what makes the difference. And as a result, was able to time and push that. I mean, just like I said, right? Right when the units come, you push up, you have the advantage. And once you know you have the advantage and you push up, it's going to be very difficult for your opponent, barring some sort of, miracle pop or some sort of blunder by your positioning. You're going to have a really good chance to win the game. And he did just that, so. Take a look at the villager counts. Yeah, basically all square aside from that 1. Military unit population fairly even right up until the end, and it really just came down to those extra caustics in the fight. So
there is certainly that, and that concludes Saturday Smackdown. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. If you're watching this on YouTube, perhaps leave a like if you enjoyed the video. If you're watching this on Twitch, thank you for tuning in. I'm not sure, Zuta, do you have? I
actually had someone post a replay, so
I saw that earlier today. Actually, yes.
I'm gonna do that replay.
That's what I was gonna ask. You're gonna do some replay analysis. Do you want me to put this on the official channel, or shall I just tag it at the end of Smackdown? I'm not sure.
You can do it whichever you prefer.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Whatever makes you happy.
Well, there is that. I think that's it from me then. It was fun. I enjoyed this Smackdown.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was. Oh, yeah, Black Thought wants me to mention the Treaty Cup as well, which is going on. I believe the signups for that have closed, and the games are starting very soon, perhaps even this next coming week. Definitely going to be interesting to watch. A lot of the games will be streamed on either this channel or the ESOC TV Twitch channel. And of course, you can find all the details for that particular tournament at esocommunity.net. Looking forward to that. I think it'll be interesting to see some high-level treaty play, see some people who actually know what they're doing in treaty going head-to-head. Certainly, I don't have that much knowledge of treaty, but I'm interested in casting some of the games just because I think it'll be fun to see the game from a different perspective, as it were. So it'll be fun.
And I think, I'm going to be doing some casting for that as well. I think just a general knowledge of AOE 3, when you're accompanied by, I guess, somebody like Black Thought or somebody else who knows a lot about treaty, will be more than enough to provide insightful comments on the game, and it should be a lot of fun. Plenty of time for obviously discussing what the players are doing, and I don't know. I imagine there'll be a bit of extra time to talk about other things as well. I don't know. I have never.
Well, you have 35 minutes, right? And so with those 35 minutes, you can.
Yeah, but maybe there's more. Like I always were thinking to myself and playing this NR40 when I used to play them as a noob back in the day, that I've got ages. I can go up, make a coffee, come back. It's actually not really the case. Like you finish making your economy and you're like, right, now I've got to build 8 layers of wall, and that takes up quite a lot of APM.
Doing all the walling and making sure you have all the upgrades and sending your shipments in the right order so that like right when the fighting starts you have the best chance to get that tempo push. I know a lot of setting up that early game is setting up like the first little tempo push so that because once you get the advantage and you're like up in your opponent's grill and you can establish like a better forward base in the middle of the map and get the natives like working for you and stuff like this. To someone who understands treaty, by the way, this is probably like completely off base, but this is my this is from what I've seen. This is my
I think I'm agreeing with you as well.
That it just like looks like as long as you can get like that first push and get that like establishment up front, you have so much better of a chance to win the game. And I think a lot of that is a lot of that preparation comes into play for the high level players. Like starting at like the 25-minute mark, making sure that everything is in order so that you can have all that going for you. So
I've heard the fighting in treaty is mechanically very intensive. Because you're making sure you're basically managing units constantly, and you have to make sure you're always at 200 pop as well. That's I've heard is one of the big downfalls of quite a lot of players in treaty.
It's certainly very macro intensive, not necessarily like in this game anytime you're controlling 200 units at a time, right? There's the macro positioning is much more important. Making sure you're spending your resources and building the right unit types and making sure they're in the right position is far more important than are my 8 skirms killing that 1 musket the most effectively that they possibly can. Right? Which is something that you do worry about.
Does that math change once you've got guard, imperial skirms with all these crazy upgrades? I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Anyway, I think it'll be refreshing. It'll certainly be interesting to see some refined treaty build orders as well, and just to see a different sort of take on the game that is available there that we don't necessarily interact with all that often. Anyway, I think that's it from me. Treaty Cup coming soon. Do keep an eye out for that. But Zuta is going to do his
Yes.
I don't even, what do you even call it? Do you call it like game analysis? I call it when I upload it to the official channel. I call it AOE 3 coaching, but you might have something different.
I don't know. It is what it is. It's just a chance. So if someone who's a lower rated player wants someone who's a higher rated player to look at their gameplay and point out things that they might not necessarily know are wrong with their gameplay, it's a chance for them to be acknowledged is basically what it comes down to. So I guess coaching or just replay analysis, something like that is what it is. But
that is coming up, and that's it from me, I guess.
Yep. All right. So thanks for the stream. It was a good one, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you later.
Peace.